Tell us about the place of social media in something like the aftermath of the Paris attacks.
I think it's been normalized. I think intuitively we turn to social media to stay informed, to process our emotions, and certainly when it comes to safety, to find out that our loved ones are safe. I think that's where Facebook Safety Check played a very prominent role.
It was incredible to see that unfold in real time.
Well, and it's a feature that allows them to roll out in a geographic area basically a little button that says, "Are you okay?" And if you press that button, it bypasses their algorithm and goes to all of your friends and family. So within the first 24 hours, 4.1 million people made use of that feature, reaching 360 million others. It's a very powerful way to communicate in such a crisis. Twitter, I think, also deserves credit for a kind of coordinating role in terms of hashtags like Porte Verte or Recherche Paris, which were used either to provide sanctuary in terms of opening doors or to help people search for loved ones by posting photos or information. And I think there's something to be said about the emotional side, like the way Prayers for Paris allowed people to show solidarity and support, and while they're witnessing a very traumatic event, be able to process it with friends and strangers from around the world so that they don't feel alone and that they're able to get a sense of what's going on.
What are you concerned about in that, as you said, the normalization of how we use social media in and around a crisis?
Well, I think in kudos, it speaks to the responsibility that these companies have. I mean, we use them for entertainment, for communication purposes, but when it comes to a crisis, I think Facebook, Twitter, Google have a responsibility, and they demonstrated that. I mean, Facebook Safety Check was designed for natural disasters. This is the first time they used it for what they refer to as a human disaster, and it was so successful they'll continue to do so moving forward. I think Twitter also deserves credit for making sure that their platform really facilitates the kind of coordination and exchange. Google made free phone calls available to anywhere in the world to France so that people could check in. And look, even Uber and Airbnb encouraged their members in France to make available their resources, including disabling the kind of surge and demand pricing that could make it opportunistic in such a context. So I think I don't want to use the word maturity because I think that we're not there yet, but I think we're seeing an institutionalization of these services as they become part of the social fabric and play a responsible role in responding to this kind of crisis.
I just thought it was fascinating. We just had a conversation about the role that the private sector can play in sponsoring refugees. You're seeing this now, that these companies, which we would use for other means, and which we could criticize for other means, have stepped up in a moment.
And I think it's inevitable that they do so. It's a response to how their users are using the service.
And it's going to mean that they trust that service in future.
I think there's two key takeaways from the way in which this played out. One is the symbiotic relationship between mainstream media and social media. There's too much noise on social media. And as a result, there was incredible value provided by journalists who curated and found those nuggets. Secondly, we saw a really interesting paradox. Social media is arguably entirely unreliable. And I think its reliability was totally debunked in this crisis. There was so much hate, racist, xenophobia, misinformation. It was almost useless. But its value was phenomenal. Yeah. So there's this paradox between being totally unreliable and incredibly valuable at the same time. And I think it'll be interesting moving forward as researchers and investigators sift through the fodder of social media, what kind of other insights and nuggets they're able to come up with.